So let's talk about the only bulletproof paddle line there is. Want to hear about it? Stay tuned. Meet the Prodrive Carbon. This is the most controllable thermoform paddle I have ever hit. You know, thermoform paddles, they come a little bit stiffer. You can control them, but they're stiffer than the normal polypropylene core paddles because of the way they do the edge and the way they do the thermoforming. I didn't know this was a thermoform paddle when I first played it. And I was absolutely blasted away when the maker of this paddle told me, hey, I forgot to tell you that this was also thermoformed. This paddle is controllable. This is the Prodrive line, and I must say I was a fan of this just because it had a Kevlar core. It's very, very similar to the Diadem Warrior line where they're doing sandwich polypropylene layers with a Kevlar core. So this is the first one that had a Kevlar core, and it was white, it was hot, like on the market, everybody loved it, had that painted grit paint, just like a lot of the models that came out at that time. When we first started getting into this whole spinning game, before carbon came out, that was the way that they added spin to paddles, and that is the way most paddle companies generated the spin that you needed, but obviously with the paint, it wears off, and now they've gone to the next level up, which is the Kevlar core, same methodology here, but we've got the carbon drive now. We've got the carbon fiber face on this. Take a look at this weave here. Pretty good carbon fiber face here, really good on spin. It has not been measured by Chris Olsen yet, so I can't give you a spin metric, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be higher than this guy. I would say judging from other paddles that I've played that this is going to be in the higher spin tier. I would say this is going to be in the 1400 to 1500 RPM range based on the feel and based on what I was able to do with the paddle. I am not a spin genius. I don't count the frames like Chris Olsen. I'm just telling you the way it feels when I play with it. The one thing about these paddles is that they are heavier paddles. So when you look at the swing weight, if you look at Chris Olsen's chart, the swing weight of these guys are second. There's only one paddle that has a higher swing weight than these guys, and they have a swing weight about a 130. So this paddle here, though, stock, though, as you see here, is 8.78 ounces. So this eliminates a lot of people because it's a heavier paddle. This is for the stronger people that like to have the heavier paddles that don't really want to add weight or don't know how to add weight to it. Very much a plow through paddle. So it's very, very head heavy. And what I found is that with heavier paddles, you know, some people have a proclivity to get elbow strain or elbow, you know, pickle elbow, tennis elbow, whatever you want to call it, elbow strain. And it's a little too heavy. So even for me, this one was a little bit too heavy for me. But this guy here is 8.5 to 8.6 ounces. So it is still a heavier paddle, and it still has good plow through, but it's a little bit more head light. So it is not as quite as head heavy as this guy. This guy, you can feel the head heaviness. This second one here, you can feel it's a little bit more controllable. It sits up a little bit easier in your hands. And what I liked about the carbon fiber face is that it generates enough spin when you're doing something with the ball. This is a control paddle. This is not a power paddle. It has a ton of plow through. You can still get the ball put away, but this is not a paddle that you're going to go to because it's so poppy for you. This is very much a control paddle. But let's talk about that control, because I would say that this paddle here was one of the ones that I could just put in my bag, and the first time I played with it, it sat naturally for me. Me specifically, I like control paddles. I don't need help from the paddle to generate power. I can generate my own. So this paddle here plays perfectly into my game because I like to reset. I like to counter punch. I like to, you know, hit third shot drops, and drives are not my primary shot. I'm not the best at drives. I'm getting better, but drives isn't something that I calculate when I'm looking at paddles. So for me, this paddle fit perfectly into my game, which is a control player game. The thing I loved about this is that it has a very large sweet spot. I felt like even hitting out here on the edges, I did not miss a whole lot of shots. And even my playing partner, Andrew, who's seen me play 20 different paddles, he said that this one looked and felt natural, like it just was an extension of my hand. And I felt the same thing. I felt like this thing was a dart thrower. I felt like I could put the ball anywhere I wanted to put it, and it would go exactly where I was aiming. Even though it's in elongated shape, I found that it was still very controllable paddle. As far as dinking, I don't know if I missed the dink with this thing. I'm trying to think of how many dinks I missed in the whole day with this paddle. I felt that comfortable with it. For my drives, I had to get kind of used to the drives because this has a little bit more plow through than I'm used to. And so a lot of the, even some of the other paddles I play, the Carbons of the world, they're softer than this paddle. They're very much control paddles, the same thing, a little bit higher spin rate. So it took me a little bit to get used to the spin here, but once I started letting my wrist relax and being able to pop through on swings, this paddle here really performed well. Now, with a heavier paddle, the drawback with a heavier paddle is you on defense, if you're getting into hands battles, you're going to have to give yourself some more time. You're going to have to get back a little bit to give yourself a little bit of time to get this paddle around on some of these balls. So don't be afraid to back up half a foot when you get into a hands battles, or keep backing up kind of like the pros do to stay behind the ball. Just know that when you're dealing with a heavier paddle, you're going to have a little bit slower reaction time at the net. So when you're defending yourself or getting in hands battles, just be aware of that. But other than that, I love this paddle. This is going to be in my regular rotation. I felt super comfortable doing third shot drops with this, third shot drives. Any kind of drives felt good with this. Defense on this felt just like butter. Resets from no man's land, being able to pick the ball up, being able to just defend out of the air and reset into the kitchen was beautiful with this paddle. I loved the resets with this paddle. And then with the counter punches, because it has enough plow through, if you get into the right position and you get your grip right, you're able to actually put the ball away on a counter punch, because that's where this thing comes in. When it hits that Kevlar core, when you speed the ball up and it hits that Kevlar core, you get a good rebound effect from that. So you get a really good compression shot when you really get something good at it, when you put a lot of power onto the ball. So I really appreciate that as a putback. Other than that, if you look below, you can see the discount code in the description. This is a great company. It's a great paddle. Can't wait to see what they come up with next. Really, really good job on the upgrades. Let's see how you guys like it. And if this isn't the paddle for you, you like something else, check them out here. Yeah, you can go check them out. Not everybody likes this paddle. May be too heavy for you. Look for a lighter one. Check out the reviews over here. Oh yeah. Got a ton of reviews. Just go check them out.